Who recognizes that song? About 5 people? Okay, who would like to know the name of that song? There it is, Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol. And it's actually one of my favorite songs. But it's moments like that when you hear a cool song, that was the inspiration for why we created Shazam. But it wasn't easy getting there. And you can see this one thing that we heard when we were out raising money from one venture capitalist. When we pitched the idea of Shazam, his quote was, "I don't see why anyone would ever use this." So I thought that today I could tell you a little bit of that ancient story of Shazam, of how we created this company and what we were up against, what the experience was like, and some of the challenges we faced and learnings that we had. So it all started around one summer in London when I had just had a birthday party that was, can anyone guess the theme of that birthday party? Austin Powers, has anyone seen that movie? So we had an Austin Powers birthday party. And I had 2 co-founders from Shazam. It was a very international group, I being American with a French mom and a British father, and then a Belgian, and my friend Dheeraj from India. And so we said, we want to start a company, but we didn't know what that company would be. We just knew it would be based in London. That's a picture of us in Hyde Park. And so we decided to brainstorm ideas. And one thing that had always bothered me is that as I went through life, I always felt like I would hear music, and I would keep a list of songs that I liked. And I would think, oh, that's a great song, I need to get that song. Or that's another good song, I need to get that song. And I would ask people what the songs were, and then I would add it to my crazy list. And then I would turn it into a kind of miscellaneous cassette tape of songs. Yeah, that was the days of cassette tapes, because we're talking about 18 years ago. And then we thought, oh my gosh, what if we could invent a technology that would identify a song at the moment you heard it? And it'd be so magical that you'd want to say Shazam, which is an exclamation that means to conjure magic. And we would just, out of thin air, identify the song that's playing. And we called that moment, such as the moment when I played this song for you just now, and moments such as when you hear music in a cafe, in a bar, in a movie theater, watching TV, listening to the radio while you're driving. It could be anywhere, but you hear a piece of music, and then every once in a while, it kind of grabs you. And you think, wow, I really like this song. And then we called that moment the music moment. And in that music moment, you'd not only want to know the name of the song, but you might want to do things with that song. You might want to add it to your playlist. You might want to buy the song. You might want to buy the CD. You might want to share it with a friend. You might want to learn more about the artist or see what the album cover looks like. You just want to interact with this music. And so that's what Shazam's vision was. It was almost the entry point into everything music related at the time that you're most impassioned by that music. But building this business, again, starting from 18 years ago, turned out to be quite a difficult task. The first problem was that the technology was actually impossible. It was not feasible. We spoke to professors of computer science who specialized in signal processing, digital signal processing from Stanford, MIT, Berkeley, PhDs, graduates from those programs, MIT Media Lab, Stanford Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics. And we said, this is what we want to do. And they said, well, while there are technologies to identify music when it's nice, clean sound environments, such as monitoring radio stations, there's no technology that can do this in a noisy environment. And they did not know how to conquer this problem. Because it turns out that in the field of pattern recognition in general, when you combine two problems together at the same time, those two problems being massive scale, and we wanted to identify any song, not just the 100,000 songs that are played on radio stations, but the 30+ million songs that you can play on Spotify today. So we wanted to identify any song, a huge scale, and then we wanted to do it in a noisy environment. And that's the second problem, noise. So you combine noise and scale as your challenges in pattern recognition, and you have a very difficult problem. So we decided to search for a genius, a fourth co-founder, to join the three of us who could invent this technology, because none of us knew how to invent it. And we asked a professor from Stanford. We showed him a list of names. Actually, it was 30 names. They were all people who had PhDs in digital signal processing from MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, and other institutions. And we said, out of these guys, who do you know? And this professor knew all of them, because it's not that big of a community. They all go to the same conferences and so on. And we said, we'd like you to rank the 5 smartest guys. And this was the list. So if you want to replicate Shazam, go hire one of the other 4 guys on this list. The number 1 rank was a guy named Avery Wang. And so we went to him, met him for a lunch, presented the concept to him, and he said he'd love to join as co-founder to kind of invent this technology and create Shazam. But then we encountered another problem, which is that he also thought it was impossible. And it was a really hard problem. He actually really almost gave up many, many times. He worked with the professor from Stanford, Julia Smith, and these are the things that they had to tackle. So they had the noise, as I mentioned, but they also had, remember we were working on mobile phones before the smartphone. So we were capturing the sound over a phone call, which meant that we were dealing with the voice compression technologies that mobile phones and mobile networks were using. We had to deal with the noise cancellation technologies that emphasize the human voice and de-emphasize all other sounds, including music. We had to deal with speed variation when DJs change the speed of the music they're playing, which also alters the signal that we're trying to match against. Pitch correction when DJs use digital instead of vinyl to play music, and then adjust the pitch of the music after adjusting the speed. Reverberation, such as you get in big rooms, the natural reverberation that occurs to sound, poor speaker quality and stereo. So many, many different sound challenges. And also computational challenges. We had to make this scale, and it had to be very, very cost-effective to computationally to make this into a service that we could provide to consumers at scale. Statistical scaling, computational scaling, and working at any point in the song, and dealing with false positives. So there were many, many challenges. To give you a sense, I'm going to play an audio clip. And this audio clip is just about 15 seconds of sound from a song. So I'm going to start with that. Okay, and now I'm going to play that exact same 15 seconds of that exact same song as recorded in an ambient environment to give you a sense of the noise challenges that we would have to deal with. Can you hear a little bit of that in the background? So that was what we are up against. And so after many months of almost giving up, one day, coincidentally, when I went on a vacation sailing in Croatia, I checked my voicemail, and they had cracked the code. Avery and Julius had figured out a way to solve this pattern recognition problem for music identification.